Hey there guys, and thanks for coming back to my YouTube channel. If you haven't already, hit like and subscribe as it helps. So a question that I get a few times, especially when I post my overhead shoulder press videos. Why do I bring the bar down to my chin? For me, there's quite a number of reasons why I do this. When I bring the bar down to my chin and look forward or more up, watching the weight, one, the range of motion has been shortened, but by only bringing it down to the chin, I don't get an excessive amount of rotation at the shoulder. Unlike, if I was to bring the bar all the way down to my collarbones, my shoulders are going to have to heavily rotate. I don't have the best mobility at times, so having that additional rotation, it's really going to, aggravate my shoulder. The other reason is if I was to try and bring the bar down any further as well, I'm going to have to lean quite far backwards. So I go into a severe degree of, spinal extension to make that happen. People often get two sorts of injuries with overhead press, either one being their shoulders or the second being their lower back, which is probably more common, especially as the weight gets heavy. For me, just bringing the bar down to the chin, it eliminates both of those, aspects. Some people have said and suggested, why don't I work on mobility of the shoulders more? Look, it is a fair point, but being, functionally tight in the shoulders carries across well to my bench press as well. I look at the distance that I bench press the bar, and then I compare that distance also to the distance of the overhead press from my chin to lockout. And it's a similar sort of distance. And you got to remember, I'm a power lifter. I'm not heavily into like bodybuilding or trying to build a stage worthy physique for bodybuilding where a fuller range of motion may be more optimal. Having said that, that's a completely different debate again. But for me, staying sports specific, especially for powerlifting, I'm trying to work my triceps and shoulders through a range of motion that is similar to that of my bench press. I bring the grip slightly in. So traditionally, when I bench press, I put my index finger on the power rings. When I do my overhead press, I put my little finger on the power ring. So it's a whole hand space closer. For me, that's going to hit a little bit more of the tricep and work, shoulders a little bit more thoroughly. Trying to take my bench press grip for an overhead press is not going to be practical. The angles are it's going to be too far out of whack, so I'm not going to try that. The other thing, when I bring the bar down to my chin and I'm just pressing up, I'm able to hold tension in my upper back quite well, and that's the same sort of tension I try and build when I'm bench pressing. Pressing the weight overhead, your scapular, and scapular stability, you're going to help, grow your upper back through isometric contraction simply because everything's trying to stay stable and your shoulders are working in a different, I'm not going to say plane of motion, but like definitely a different range of motion. And having that additional stability in the shoulder, being able to stabilize in a different movement, I also find carries across well to the bench press. You'll also notice, the reps on overhead are on the higher side. And that again, even though I'm only bringing the bar down to my chin, I don't want to overly tax my mid to lower back as I have deadlifts the next day. Granted, they are at a moderate weight, but I still need to have my lower back, mid back fresh enough to be able to perform that, movement, competently for my competition prep. And then again, on Friday, I have heavy squats. So again, I don't want a movement that's going to heavily tax my lower back. So I'm always keeping the reps on the higher side of things. If I want to challenge my shoulders and go heavier and have a fuller range of motion, that is when I go and do my one arm dumbbell shoulder press. Because that way, I can lean slightly off to the side It's more, lateral flexion and then lateral extension. So, I don't have a problem doing that. And that carries over quite well to my squats just because, I'm challenging the core from a different angle in that regard. But they're the movements I will go heavier on for overhead work. The other thing, dumbbell pressing is very different to, pressing with a barbell. My bench pressing competition is obviously done with a barbell. I'd like to do a fair bit of overhead work with a barbell as well. But you'll also see I play around with a log, with the stones, with one-arm dumbbell press. So that's, my take on why I do the movement that way. If you guys have any further questions or queries about it, feel free to comment below. Otherwise, have a great day wherever you are.